most money could be found in making adult films, if you know what I mean. So she was really making good money for them in this way. And her husband knew what she was doing. And he wasn't obviously happy with it, but he felt they needed the money, and he just didn't want to hear the specifics. It was that kind of thing. I heard him talk on, I think it was Snapped, saying, just, I didn't want to hear about it. So, in one of her films, she was paired up with this guy named Jason Andrews. Now, he was about a year or two younger than her. He was born in London. He had spent some time living in Israel. He claimed that he was a corporal in the U.S. Marine Corps, and he had fought in Iraq. And he was working in Chicago as a DJ, as well as making adult movies. So they were paired up, and their chemistry was really good. And Amanda really liked this guy. She loved his British accent and everything about him. And they began an off-screen romance. Now, according to a photographer that worked with Jason Andrews, he said, quote, "He was a very charming, tall, handsome British guy in the military. People seemed very drawn to him. He had girls and boys all around him. They just sort of fawned over him. But there was something unstable about him. Felt like you had to walk on eggshells or you might get angry." And Jason reported that he had PTSD from having seen people killed in Iraq. So as I said, she and he started to have an affair. And her husband, while he knew she was doing these types of films, he didn't realize she had an actual, relationship off screen with anyone. That wouldn't have been okay. But luckily for her husband, he started to get his disability checks. And he said to her, "Alright, that's, we're gonna be okay now. You need to stop doing this work. I can support us with this money." But that's when she let him know she had no intention of quitting, and she was planning on leaving him to go move to Tampa, Florida with Jason. So one day, Jason shows up at their place to help her move. The husband comes out, they get into a whole argument. "This is my wife, you're not going anywhere with her, blah blah blah." Jason takes out his gun, he's waving it around. And her husband calls the police. They come down, they arrest Jason, and ultimately he's just ordered to stay away from their town. Okay. But that's okay because he has no interest in being in their town. So he and Amanda, she takes her daughter, who is now 9, drops her off at her father's house. When I say her father, I believe it was Amanda's father, not the girl's father, but I could be wrong. So, and she and Jason head off to Tampa, where they begin working for a local studio there. And she wants to make extra money as well. So she begins offering private massages, if you know what I mean. Okay, now let's put the two of them over here. Okay, and let's talk about a man named Dennis, aka Scooter Abrahamson. So, this guy, he was born in 1968. At the time of the crime that we're going to get to, he would be 41 years old. He lived in Newport Richey, Florida. He owned a tattoo shop. He was a biker. He also drove a tow truck and was a repo man. You know repo man? A guy who, if you don't pay your bills for something like your car, someone has to come and take your car because you didn't pay for it. That's the repo man, okay? People don't like when their things are repossessed, so they do not take kindly to the repo man, but I'm just letting you know more about repo men, even though it's not relevant at all. And you probably already know. special thrill, let's call it, out of discussing taking people's lives. And she was no stranger to people with fetishes. So she was interested in helping him live out this fantasy. So they had planned out this evening. And she had been texting him all the while she was in the hot tub. So, after the couple left, here are some of the texts that they sent. So he said, "I'm so glad you're really committed to this take. Keep eyes for a knife, etc. for me." She said, "I'm effing excited. I want to have sex after we kill him." He said, "You just get him relaxed and face down. Take your time." So, when the time was right, Jason came into the house. He got a sledgehammer which belonged to Dennis. And while Dennis was face down on the massage table, he hit him over the head with the hammer. Then he proceeded to stab him multiple times until, sadly, he was killed. Then he took the knife, the sledgehammer, and rubber gloves that he had worn, and he tossed them into a laundry bin in the house. Kind of a stupid thing to do, but that's what he did, and they left. They went home and they had sex, which was the plan. And then they spent the next day eating popcorn and watching movies. So, that next day, Dennis's cousin came over looking for him, and, well, you know what he found. He found Dennis laying face down on this table, butchered, you know. There was blood everywhere. It was a complete mess. And he knew he was dead. There was no question. So he called the police, who came right over. And they found all the murder weapons. They also noted that he was missing $6,000 in cash, his credit card, and a camera, an expensive camera. And of course, they're trying to figure out who could have done this. So they do find out that he had been with this Sunny Day the night of the incident. And meanwhile, around this same time, a few days later, specifically on May 18th, the couple went to a local department store called Beal's, and they got caught shoplifting $67 worth of stuff. So they were arrested. They got out on, cheap bail, and they decided to go their separate ways. charged with the murder. Now they went looking for Jason because they did find all these text messages, okay? And they knew that the couple had planned this together. So, it was a little rough finding him, but ultimately, they got him in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where he was working as the manager of a high-class billiards club. And he was pretty surprised to see them, but nonetheless, they sent him down to Florida as well, where he was charged with the murder as well. Now, obviously things didn't look too good for their case because they have all these texts saying exactly what they wanted to do, and they left behind the murder weapons. So, not a good look. Plus, they had used his credit card right after they stole it at Home Depot. They spent like $400. I can't imagine on what, because this is after the crime, so it's not like they were buying, cleaning supplies or, I don't know, I guess something unrelated. So they decided to both take pleas because they were facing, the death penalty or very long jail terms. So, Amanda, she pled guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 40 years in prison. And Jason pled guilty to first-degree murder, and he was given a life sentence without the possibility for parole, which I guess was better than the death penalty for him, of course. So that's it. That's the